AITAH for telling my fiancé of 8 years to choose between his best friend and I. Okay, basically my fiancé and I met 8 years ago. 8 years ago, my fiancé and his best friend became business partners as well. My fiancé, M27 Sean, and his best friend M30 Ace spend a lot of time together to begin with. He comes home at the crack ass of dawn 3 a.m. 4 a.m. after drinking all night on the weekends, and I'm pretty sure he visits his house after work almost every day. They spend the night with each other for 2-3 days at a time, and Ace even went to my dress fitting with Sean. I would like to mention the night before my dress fitting, they had a sleepover. Not to mention, they were about 10 minutes late to the dress fitting the next morning. He yelled at me for the first time last week when I asked him if anything weird was going between the two. He said he was uncomfortable and immediately shut it down. Every time Ace and Sean hang out, Sean dresses up and acts like he's a freaking girl. It's weird. Anyway, today was our 8th year anniversary. I have put up with a lot of things. One of the days, he told me he couldn't get it up due to him being excited to see Ace. Because they were going on this trip they've been waiting for all month, and he didn't find it fair to even have sex with me if his mind wasn't in it. I said I understood. But this was the last straw. He canceled our 8-year anniversary date to go out with Ace. Then, he spent the night at his house and ignored most of my calls. Once he got home the next morning, it was very early, and he apologized for not returning my calls. I told him that he had to choose between him and I if he wanted this to work. He looked extremely defeated and got defensive, saying that if I wanted to leave because he had a best friend that he saw as family, that I could. But he didn't know what else to do. I stormed out, and I'm staying at my parents' house. He's texting and calling me, but I seriously don't want to hear anything until he tells me that he'll drop Ace. AITAH.
I saw something as a kid I thought was a hallucination. I saw it again as an adult, and I am terrified. When I was a child, no older than 7, I would see a panel appear in front of me at random occasions 3 times. This would be a black panel with circular moving lights moving counterclockwise. There would be green lights flashing on the top and bottom of the panel, and in the bottom corners there would be 2 little screens. They would flash on and off with static between skulls that would stare at me and the smiling faces of Robert Reed and Florence Henderson from the Brady Bunch. They wouldn't do anything but sit there and stare like they did on the 3x3 grid in the intro. But this was different. Instead of the calm, happy smile, they would have this sinister, evil grin, and when the static changed their face to a skull, you could tell the skull was theirs. I would hear voices. It was a female voice echoing over what sounded like an intercom. She would repeat, "This is the end, the world is spinning." Every time the lights made a full rotation, I would hear a beep that sounded like a radar. The scariest part of all of this was not the panel, not the Brady Bunch, not the voices, but the spinning. Everything in front of me would start spinning in the same direction as the lights moved. Nothing shook or fell. Even when sitting down in this phenomenon, I would stay glued to the floor or my bed when I would go upside down. The 3 memories came in my room, my parents' room, and my preschool classroom. Every once in a while it would appear to spawn in front of me when I was in a room where I could read what was on the wall in front of me. Let's say 20 feet. The vision haunted me for years on end. I was in and out of therapy, and the doctors thought I was showing premature signs of schizophrenia. Despite not seeing the panel in years, the idea that it could come when I least expect it frightened me. I had the constant worry that if I didn't think about it, then it would happen again. I was 13 when I stopped therapy. I have accepted that I was a kid seeing things, or that it was a lucid dream you have as a kid that you think is real when you remember it as you get older. That was until last week. I was driving home on I-4 at about 2:04 in the morning, just like I do every night, when I felt my eyes getting tired, so I pulled over to take a power nap. I set an alarm on my phone to wake me up. By the time I woke up, I-4 seemed to be abandoned, which was very uncommon. I didn't think anything of it though. Then I saw flashing lights behind me of a police car, probably just an officer making sure I was okay. As he approached my window as I rolled it down, he didn't say, "Are you okay, sir?" or anything I thought a cop would usually say. Instead, he slightly leaned through my window to point at my windshield. What is that? I turned to look at where he was pointing. All of a sudden, the black panel in front of me, the lights flashing and appearing like they were moving in a counterclockwise motion. Robert Reed and the now deceased Florence Henderson with the evil grin. Worst of all, I was spinning parallel to the lights, giving the illusion of moving in a circular motion in the center of the panel. But just like the other 3 times, it eventually stopped. I looked to me left to see no cop, no car, and nobody on I-4. I just started driving back on my road home. I haven't told anybody about this vision. I do not know the purpose behind it, but I know one thing. I was not a crazy kid making something up. I was spinning. The voices were real, and I was gaslit by professionals to thinking I was seeing something, though what I was seeing was real.
AITAH for not celebrating my birthday with my wife after she canceled our honeymoon this year for her solo trip to Europe. My wife 32F and I 33M got married a couple of months ago, and my wife went on a solo trip to Europe. She always wanted to do the solo trip, but she never had the time to do so because of work. However, she used the honeymoon time for her solo trip. I wanted to accompany her to her trip, but she said she needed this for her mental health, and I ultimately agreed even though I was sad about it. She thanked me many times for being understanding of this, but I put it on the back of my mind and tried not to think too much about it because I was really excited about our wedding. The wedding was great, and my wife left for her trip to Europe the next day. I really miss my wife, and it affected my mental health. My wife came back home on my birthday last Thursday, but I was out of town celebrating it with my sibling 31F. When my wife texted me asking me where I was, I told her I would come back on the weekend. I came back home on Sunday feeling extremely happy, but my wife says she wished she could have celebrated my birthday with me because she had planned something special. I told her I definitely would from next year, but this year I needed to celebrate it with someone else for my mental health. Was I the Edit. I think people are misunderstanding what I have asked. I did not ask if my wife was wrong in taking the trip. I asked if I was wrong to not celebrate my birthday with her. My wife did go on a solo trip. We were in constant contact, and she had a blast there. She had a lot of fun. We FaceTime each other every night. However, I did miss her badly, and I am thankful my sister got me out of my funk. But in the process, I sort of ghosted my wife. I sent only a couple of texts when she landed home and when she wished me happy birthday, and I barely responded to her texts the next few days and did not pick up any of her calls till I got back home on Sunday. But ever since I've come home, she has been feeling a bit down, and I am feeling a bit guilty about it.
Shallow waters. Hello, you can call me Beat27, don't ask why, but when I was younger, less than 7, maybe 5 or something like that, I remember something strange. It scared me so badly that I almost started to cry, but I couldn't know tears, just a small sharp gasp. I was playing in the shallow parts of the waters, not because I couldn't swim, but because I was rolling around and playing. My memory is shattered for a number of reasons, so sorry if I don't give too much detail. As I was playing, I started feeling sad and almost weird, unsettling, no matter where I sat or stood. After a few minutes of tearing up, I started laughing and playing again. I don't know if what I grabbed that day had anything to do with my emotions, but considering they started acting up before the problem started, it's very possible. I say I'm not sure because I was born with a few mental health problems, but anyways, back to the story. As I was playing, I had rolled around in the water, same spot twice, but the second time around was, well, like I said, if I could at the time, if I could have cried in that moment, I would have. I remember wanting to scream, but nothing. What I had grabbed will make me feel weird for the rest of my life. I had first initially thought it was a mask, but there was grass and skin. It felt like hard bone. My fingers had landed in the eye holes. It was gross. When I moved my arm up, it came with it. Thinking about it now, it looked like some carved the front of a human skull off, then flattened that into a sick mask. I felt scared, confused, and sick all at once. I have had some weird things happen in my life. I'm dyslexic, so sorry for the mess ups. It happens.